Hello and welcome to Seasonal Wire, the platform where we speak truth to power. I'm going to show you certain things. On top of Macron being booed at the Stade de France during the recent opening ceremony for the World Rugby World Cup, it is coming out that France is also engaged in actively trying to use coup to take power in Burkina Faso, in Niger. Now that puts into question what happened in Gabon, but we're watching that closely and to see what's going on there. We're not going to talk too much about Gabon right now. We want to focus on Niger and Burkina Faso. Now, according to some African news that I follow, Tunacheki and African News, I would like us all as Africans to begin to do something, please. Let us start shouting out our own African connections. African News, I subscribe to them. I share their stuff. And of course, Tunacheki as well, I subscribe to both. And I think we need to do that. And I'm referencing them, clearly in my broadcast. They are not the only source from which I'm looking at my information, but I find that a lot of what they're saying makes a lot of sense. When I check it, it checks out, and it confirms it's in tandem with what I am doing myself as well. So of course, you're watching Season Ewa, the platform where we speak truth to power. Don't forget to go ahead and subscribe to Season Ewa on YouTube. How do you do that? Go ahead and subscribe. Subscribe to Season Ewa on YouTube and help us grow the platform. I would very much like your support on that. Now, as I'm doing this now, I may actually go live for a little while on TikTok. So I'm going to talk about it. Those who will see me on TikTok may not be able to see this properly because on TikTok, as you all know, TikTok is not really. 1 second, please. Let me just check that again. Yeah, I don't know what's happening here. Give me a second. I'm just trying to check what I'm doing here. I'm multitasking, and sometimes it may not necessarily go the way you want it. You'll have ideas, and it doesn't quite go the way you think it will go. Okay, I think I've got it now. I think so. I think we'll be all right on this one. Don't you think? Yeah, let's have a look. Yeah, we may be all right. I think it's going to be all right. So, yeah, so that's done. I'm just quickly going to go live directly on there. And I'm going to try and do this. And we will talk about the story. Now, I will try. Maybe I'll see. Maybe I'll do that later, actually, because I want to focus on this, because this is quite a lot to focus on. And I might come and do a live broadcast and try and talk about that again, but I'm doing this video particularly to highlight two things. So France are trying to carry out a coup in Niger and in Burkina Faso. So let's watch. Those of you following us, you will see a video coming up shortly, and we'll talk about that. This is from African News. Then I'll come and talk about it. Now, the interesting thing is this. United Nations should obviously be speaking out against this, and they should be calling out France, trying to interfere in the affairs of a sovereign country. They should be calling them out. They should be doing all that. But you know what? The permanent members of the United Nations are what countries? Can you guess? Can you guess what countries? UK, US, France, China, Russia. So, if anybody wanted to pull and hold France to account, France will simply veto. They will simply veto any attempt to question the actions of France in going to try and carry out a coup in a so-called sovereign nation. Sovereign Burkina Faso, sovereign Niger. We all know that they're not sovereign because the French have got them to sign something called the Pact for the Continuation of Colonization, and got them to pay money. And that is why they want to leave. So you can see that however way you look at this, France and the entire system, when they say, oh, we are egalitarian and everything else, liberty and everything else, that's all, they're just empty talk. The reality is that France, along with his partners in Europe, and of course the NATO partners, the UN partners, UK and US, They are intent on ensuring that Africa is never free. Now, I just wanted to put that out there. So when we talk about UN should do something, they are the ones in control of the UN. Now you see why. I'm saying this because as Africans, we need to understand that we have to create our own totally, entirely independent body. We have been members of that UN and we have no permanent seat in the Security Council. Not one African country. And yet our resources, 30% of the world's resources are in Africa. And we have no representation on that permanent seat. And yet it's our resources that these countries exploit. So you can now see that UN is meaningless, it's useless. We must devise bodies and our own systems that's going to protect our land, our continent, our people, our resources, and it will be for our benefit. This is what I'm talking about. I'm being very, very clear about this and specific. We're not talking about going to invade somebody else. No, Africa has suffered and been oppressed long enough. Let us now watch this video. This is by Africa News, and kudos to them and credit to them, of course. Listen.
Niger's military regime accused France of deploying forces in several West African countries with a view to military intervention. Relations with France, Niger's former colonial power, degraded swiftly after Paris stood by ousted President Mohamed Bazoum following the coup in July. It should be brought to the attention of the public opinion, national and international, that despite the announcement of this withdrawal plan, France continues to deploy its forces in several ECOWAS.
So you see that now. So France are saying they're going to withdraw. That's all talk. That's what I'm saying to you. The reality is they are putting more forces to try and recolonize in Niger, Burkina Faso. And I think, I'm sorry to say this, it may already be that Gabon has already been recolonized. I don't have the facts on that. We're doing some checks on that to see if that suspicion has been borne out. We cannot confirm that at the minute, so we're not going to say too much on that. But there is something about that coup that doesn't sound right. But let us listen. So you can see that's what he's saying. That they said they moved out. France are saying they removed their troops, but they're trying to send more people in to take over. That is what we're faced with. Let's listen on.
Countries as part of preparations for an aggression against Niger, which it is planning in collaboration with the regional bloc.
So ECOWAS is still on board. Obviously, what is going to happen is they are putting the name ECOWAS. ECOWAS haven't got any teeth. We know that we haven't got any military. ECOWAS haven't got any strong military. We don't produce our own weapons. We don't produce. Our army is nothing to write about at this point. The Nigerian army that would have been a very efficient and strong force has not been as strong as it was back in the days of the Sierra Leonean and Liberian War. It's been depleted to such an extent, and that is by design. Because at that point, one of the things that I want you to understand that at that point when the military was really powerful in Nigeria, and unfortunately they got them to start, instead of using that power to actually begin to build Africa up and make Africa really free, they used it to turn on its own people. They encouraged the military, the Nigerian military that was powerful at that time, to turn on its people and actually enslave us in our own land. The military coups that were happening. That wasn't by accident, it was by design. But people don't understand. The connection has not been made. And they realized the minute that Nigeria could actually go into any African country and actually calm the situation and take it over, and they thought, oh, this is a regional power. And the West did not want Africa to have any power that would challenge its control of Africa. So what they've been doing over time, psychologically and gradually, was to weaken the Nigerian army. And now, unfortunately, the Nigerian army has nothing to write them about in that way. They're not a threat to anybody in that way. And so we need to be very, very clear. So when I say that, when they say ECOWAS and the French, no, the French are the ones who are going to run this whole thing, and they want to control it. They don't want any chance of anybody having power. And they're ensuring that Africa as a continent never has its own control, military force. They don't want it because that's how they dig their hands into our resources. We have to be very clear about what is going on as Africans, and I'm explaining this pointedly. We need a united Africa. All those nations that we are seeing, they are all areas of extraction of resources. It's all an illusion. We need to wake up as Africans. We must wake up. Let's listen on.
avec cette organisation communautaire.
In August, Niger's coup leaders renounced several military cooperation agreements with France, which has about 1,500 soldiers stationed in the country. On Sunday, President Macron reiterated France's stance, demanding the release of President Bazoum. He emphasized that the redeployment of troops would only occur upon request from the deposed head of state. Since last July, a coup d'etat has been holding a democratically elected president hostage.
You see what they're talking about there? The democracy they're talking about. I'm telling you, all democracies, that so-called democracies that we have in Africa now, they are puppets. They're not democracies, and they're not free, because all of them have to answer back to the former colonials, be it English colonials or French colonials. So there is nothing like a democracy. It is an appearance of democracy. We need to actually lift that veil off our eyes. And I'm hoping by pointedly explaining this to you in this manner, we can understand the steps we need to take. Africa must free itself first and foremost, and it requires all of us to work together. We need one united Africa, and that one united Africa will provide its own security, its own education, its own education, economy, and all manner. We have to be free in every sense of the word free. Africa is not free right now. I want to make that very clear. Let's go forward.
France's position is simple. We condemn it.
And no, we're not interested in what Macron says. And now you can see why he was booed. Have I got access to that video? I want to run that in this particular section. I want you to hear the boo. You can see his face. I'll keep it there. You can see his face. I'm just going to quickly show you. Here he's coming. Now you see why he was booed. You see? In his own backyard, booed. See that? Quite funny. Look at the sheepish grin on his face. No, they know. They know that what they're doing is wrong. That's why he's smiling in that manner. But as Africans, we need to keep our eye on the ball. Africa must unite. There must be only one Africa. All these nations, they are all resource collection points, bar none. You see that? So I'm not going to, belabor the point. I just wanted to just make that something for us to be aware of. But anyway, let's carry on. So it is really important. We do not have to take the words of these colonials who are intent on keeping Africa enslaved. We mustn't listen to their words. Africans, it is time to turn to ourselves, to free ourselves from this bondage. We can do it. We can. The birth of civilization came from Africa. End of story. From the people of Africa. No debate. There's no debate there. And we have to be very clear to reconnect back to our ancestors, the greatness of the kingdoms that they destroyed under the guise of expedition. They named expedition to this place. They had so many expeditions, they destroyed many African kingdoms under the guise of expedition. People don't know what's expedition. It's actually war. Anyway, we'll talk about that later on. Let's carry on with this. I don't want to deviate too much. Let's go forward.
Call for the release of President Bazoum and the restoration of constitutional order, and we do not recognize the legitimacy of the putschist.
We do not recognize any attempt by anything done by France no longer. France don't own Africa. Africa does not pretend to claim or lay any claim to any part of Europe or France. So why should France continue to lay claim using the fact that the disgusting and ugly fact that they came, colonized, enslaved people, and they want to now say they want resources for free, and they tell us you have to, if you're going to trade, we have forced refusal on trade. We can go in and take your government down if you don't do what we tell you. That's mafia. We need to understand that the United Nations is nothing but a sham of an organization. They are, and we need to build organizations that will protect the interests of Africans for Africans on African soil. Let's go forward.
Declarations, since President Bazoum has not relinquished power, and so if we redeploy anything, I would only do so at President Bazoum's request. And
you see what he's trying to do now? He's trying to use Bazoum. So how can one man that is a puppet of the French, understand what I'm saying here? How can one man, Bazoum, a man that was put in, handpicked by France, to continue to take the resources that they've been taking, the uranium and other resources, but principally the uranium from Niger. 1 in every 3 light bulb in France is powered by the uranium from Niger. Think about that. And they want to put that man that allowed that to go on. Don't forget, the uranium, they've been taking that uranium from Niger and indeed Africa for over 40 years to power not just France, but other countries with nuclear weapons in Europe as well. That's the reality. Go check it. Let's go forward.
And in coordination with him, not with officials who today are taking a president hostage on this subject from...
Can you see what they're trying to do? Look at the narrative. They don't talk about the fact that they are still taking entire people, 14 countries, forced to pay 85% of their own revenues into the French reserves. And then they would, when the countries want their money, they lend it to them. Is that not mafia style? Is that not mafia? We need to wake up in Africa. We really need to. France has no business being in any part of Africa. And then they first want to say, oh, their immigration, oh, this and that. And you are coming and you're sending in military troops against the people. Women have been talking about they don't want anything to do with France. France should go away. And the women have said, we don't have a problem with the women of Niger. We don't have a problem with the people of France. It's the government who have been enslaving us in our own land. We don't want it. We want them away from our land. But the French government are not listening. And that is why we Africans must understand that anything they tell us about democracy is a lie. It's about our resources. We need to understand and wake up.
Day one, France has been coordinating with all the presidents of the region and the heads of state and government.
You see what they're trying to do there? We're coordinating with all the presidents of the region. They're all puppets. Anybody speaking to France from Africa, from African so-called countries, they are extraction points. Trust me, they are all extraction points. There's no such thing as a country. There is no real independence in Africa right now. That's the reality. We need to confront that. If we don't admit to that, we are kidding ourselves. There is no real independence. The first thing I can say now is the beginnings of it are from Mali, Burkina Faso, Guinea, and Niger. Gabon, there's something about Gabon. I can feel it. I can literally feel this. It's not just, I can feel it. But anyway, we will get confirmation of that. Let's go forward.
And we fully support the positions of ECOWAS. On Tuesday,
and who is ECOWAS? ECOWAS are puppets of the colonials. And please, I want you to understand that France are not working alone. France are not working alone. Again, I'm going to say this again. Go and look at the UN. Of the 5 permanent members, UK, US, France, they are permanent members. China and Russia, they are on the other side. You can see that. And those permanent members, those 3 permanent members, UK, US, and France, are starting together. Whatever France does, it has got approval from both UK and US. That's the reality of it. And we need to understand that that's the game that's being played as Africa. We have to understand that. We have to understand that.
Paris Defense Ministry source told French media Le Monde their army was in talks with the military regime over withdrawing elements of its presence in Niger.
You see all that stuff? They don't want to remove. They don't. What business does France has being in any part of Africa? If you tell us that we're sovereign, prove it. Pull your resources. You have no business. Focus on France. Leave Africa alone, and you will be made to leave one way or the other when the time is right. Not only France, all the colonial powers will be made to leave Africa because they have impoverished our people long enough. This is beyond one person. We are speaking for the whole of Africa now. We are in bondage, and we need to be free. We must determine, Africans must freely themselves determine who they sell the resources to, at what price, at what quantity. Not the other way around, not those who are buying. There is no such thing as trade in Africa. This is exploitation going on in Africa on a daily basis. Let's go forward. Now the next one. So that's General Chiani of Niger, and exposing the fact that France are actually trying to use military force to come and take over. And instead of removing the forces, they're actually adding more. That is what's going on. Same thing is happening in Burkina Faso. Let's go and watch now. Let's watch this report. Again by Tsinacheki. Please, one of the things we need to start doing in Africa, I want to say, I'm putting the name up here. We must support our media. And all our media across Africa, we need to begin to unite. I personally would like to see us setting up a body where we are all part of that body. Anybody that's speaking about Africa, that's working with, we have a body that we will set up. And that body will be responsible for something much bigger, which when the time comes, we can talk about that. But I think, but first thing is to actually unite our media platforms. Not to become one person or one name, no, but just unite so that all the information we're getting, we can begin to share it among ourselves, and we will need to have regular discussions. Tuna Cheki is doing a great work again, just like African News. And, we need to, Wodemaya is another great guy, really bringing out the best in Africa. We need all this, we need to connect. It's not about just showing and leaving it at that now. Now we must begin to to link arms, to literally link arms like this, to literally link arms so that we can begin to build our own social media, our own spaces that we can share information that will awaken our people. That is the only way. Forget the other mainstream media. They're not going to do it for us. So, Tuna Cheki, go and subscribe. Please subscribe to Zenewai and the platform where we speak truth power. Let me just remind you, how do you do that? Go ahead. Subscribe to Zenewai, hit the notification button, and of course, give us thumbs up. Help us grow this platform. I really appreciate your support, and please, let's carry on. So, now we're going to listen to Tuna Cheki on Burkina Faso. And of course, Burkina Faso, I love this young man here that you see in the background, Captain Ibrahim Traore. He's a real hero of Africa in the mold of oh God, my name has just gone off my head now. Gaddafi, and of course, oh God, the former man from Burkina Faso. Huh, God, man, it will come to me. One second. Yes, sorry, Thomas Sankara is in the mold of Thomas Sankara, fighting for his people. And everything he talked about, just remember, he talked about the Mediterranean Sea. Our people are dying in the Mediterranean Sea because the French and others are taking our resources. And the same people taking our resources are blocking our people from coming to those countries, their countries, to benefit from the resources they stole in the first place from Africa illegally, impoverishing us deliberately. We have to stop that. Africans, we need to wake up. We have to wake up. So, salute. Ibrahim Traore, Captain Ibrahim Traore, salute. Now let's go forward and listen to his plan. Now, let me just say, there was a coup recently in Burkina Faso that the French were instigating, and Ibrahim Traore thwarted it. Let's have a listen.
Africa News. Breaking news. Attempted coup in Burkina Faso against interim President Ibrahim Traore thwarted. An attempted coup in Burkina Faso against interim President Ibrahim Traore's government has failed. For context, Burkina Faso's interim president, Captain Ibrahim Traore, has gained popularity among younger Africans due to
1 second, please. Okay.
his adept problem-solving skills and his courage to challenge the long-standing Western hegemony. However, this popularity has not extended to the West, particularly to former colonial power France. This has led to yet another foiled coup attempt aimed at ousting Traore.
So you see now, France is meddling in our affairs. I talked about the fact that UN is useless. United Nations is useless because why? They are the founding members. League of Nations, yeah? How many of you remember something called League of Nations? League of Nations was what was in place before, and now they are turned into United Nations. And the founding members of the United Nations, of course, is France. France, US, and UK. They are the founding members. Latterly, China was added. I think probably Russia may have been part of that. I'm not too sure. I'll check that. But France was, and China was literally added. I think even as 70s or something, But the point I'm making here is that the fact that France can carry out a coup in a so-called sovereign country and the UN don't even do anything, it proves, again, I'm telling you, France has a veto on the UN. UN is a toothless dog. As Africans, we should be ensuring that this kind of coup by anybody from outside of Africa, in fact, any coup in Africa, in terms of anybody trying to instigate it, that we have bodies, organizations that are going to actively deal with that head on. That's coming from within Africa only, solely. solely. But anyway, that's for later on. Let's go forward.
Traore's government. This isn't the first time an attempt has been made to overthrow his administration. In December 2022, shortly after Traore assumed power, a group of disgruntled soldiers made an unsuccessful...
So it's not the first time. This is the second time they're going to try to take over, and instigated by France. If UN was functioning, France should have been cautioned. They would have paid a fine, all of that, but they don't. That's why I'm telling you, we should no longer believe in the United Nations. As Africans, we need to build our own organization that's going to cater for all Africans and ensure that the integrity of Africa is not is no longer penetrated or exploited by colonials. Let's go forward.
Bid to depose him. The individuals allegedly responsible for this attempt were identified as civilians and a lieutenant colonel named Emmanuel Zungrana. Authorities received a tip-off regarding soldiers and former soldiers with ties to intelligence who were surveilling residences and other locations frequented by prominent government figures.
So they were surveilling. So they were paid by the French to do this. Again, these are obviously those are puppets, and if had they been successful, they will be the people that France would obviously use to continue to oppress and suppress Africans on African soil. So I'm glad they were thwarted,
including President Captain Ibrahim Traore, as stated in an official statement. Their objective was to destabilize the transitional government.
Did you hear that?
Following
their objective was to destabilize, and by France, a so-called the champion for liberty and egalitarianism nonsense. My foot. I said it.
The investigations, the three individuals were apprehended and subsequently ordered to be detained by an examining magistrate. They faced charges related to involvement in a military conspiracy, violation of military directives, plotting against state security, criminal association, and endangerment. According to military prosecutor Major Alphonse Zorma, as detailed in the state.
Wow, that guy is tall. Can you see this? See the guy, he's 6 foot something. Look at everybody. He is tall, man. Salute, Captain Traore. Salute, Ibrahim Traore. Salute, a great African hero in the mold of Thomas Sankara. Honestly, yeah, we need to protect the guys like this and General Chani and Amoiti, I think it is, of Mali, if I'm saying it, I hope, and then Dumbaye. The guy in Gabon, we're still, yeah, let's see. I hope I'm wrong, but Gabon, but let's listen on.
The three suspects were identified as Warrant Officer Wyndon Malegde Kabor, Sergeant Bryce Ismail Ramde, and former Corporal Samida, who had previously been convicted in a state conspiracy case in 2015. Zorma reported that they unequivocally admitted to the facts. The interim government of Burkina Faso has been implementing new independent and progressive policies, which have garnered disapproval from many in the Western world.
Yeah, you can see that he's jumping up and down. Macron and the rest. Macron is not alone. I want you to know that Europe is threatened by the fact that Africans are standing up for in their own continent. And Europe shouldn't be threatened. How would the Europeans feel if somebody somewhere suddenly decided, no, you don't have your freedom anymore in Europe? How would you feel? Because that's what we've been facing in Africa for over 500 years. So, 1 second, please. 1 second. Yeah, so what we are saying now is that we are concerned that France is just behaving like a colonial, like they've always been on African soil. And they must be kicked out, one way or the other. They have to be kicked out. Let us listen to the final part of what Macron is saying here. He says policies have garnered disapproval of many Western world currencies in Burkina Faso. The Western world, I'm sorry to say, they've been all about oppressing Africa. And we have to be honest about that. Even the financial structures, the currencies of Africa is worthless. Let me see if I can show you. I did a screenshot of something recently of the currencies. And I wanted to bring that into discussion because I think it's worth knowing this. You know, African currencies are worthless. They are literally worthless, you know, and it's all down to the Western world, Western policies. Now, it's not about trying to call people names or whatever. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in what actually will benefit Africans and how it will improve the lives of millions that have suffered needlessly under the colonial, oppression that's been going on for hundreds of years. And we need to call it out, regardless of who may be the ones, controlling it. We're not interested. We just want to make sure that people begin to benefit from our resources. And that is what it's really about. So I'm trying to see if I can find that information for you. I'll have to come. You know what? Anyway, we won't talk too much about that. Let us listen to what he's saying here, and then we'll wrap it up.
Recently, Burkina Faso terminated its military agreement with France.
You see, they terminated its military agreement with France. And that's the pact, is that of the pact for continuation of colonization. So glad that Burkina Faso caught and ended that agreement. It is an imposition that they have every right to reject. And we support Burkina Faso and Niger and the other countries that are shortly going to follow to remove ourselves from the yoke of these colonials. Let's listen on.
And expelled French troops from the country.
Yes.
As a result, Burkina Faso's interim president, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, is rapidly gaining recognition as a prominent symbol of African independence.
Indeed, he is. He is a symbol of African independence, 100%. Absolutely, and we support that. Tunacheki is doing a great work here, and I am the credit to them on this broadcast. Like I said, I give credit to every African news channel that African News, Tunacheki, and others. We need to really support each other. So let's reach out to each other. Let's subscribe to each other. Those of you on Tunacheki and African News, please subscribe to Citizen AY as well. We are going to grow this our platform. We need platform where people can begin to rely on the news that we share rather than on the news of the mainstream media. That is obviously in part of the process that has been enslaving and oppressing Africans. And enough is really enough. Let's go ahead.
Particularly among the African youth. Let us know in the comments below if you found this video informative. Please show your support by liking and sharing this video for the YouTube algorithm.
Yes, absolutely. So let's support them. Go right ahead and support African News and Tunacheki. We need to support one another. We are all we got. Africans must support Africans. So what I wanted to just state is that the French president, and all of their plans and everything else, it is important that we highlight and expose the injustice of what they're doing here. Sorry, 1 minute, please. I don't want to do that. That's not what I wanted to do. I wanted you to see this one. So, as you see, it's being booed here. And that's because people know what France has been doing in Africa. So, you see that? You see? Look at his face there. Look at his face. I want you to fix your eyes on that. So he knows. He's actually embarrassed. That's what the face is showing. It's showing deep embarrassment that they've been exposed. What the people now know around the world know exactly what France stands for in Africa. It's colonization, and we collectively as Africans must come together and put an end to it. I'm going to stop it here for now. What are your thoughts? Let's hear your comments. Credit to African News and Tunacheki. And I'll be giving more updates as well. Please don't forget, go ahead and subscribe to Citizen AY on YouTube. How do you do that? Subscribe to Citizen AY, hit the notification button, and of course give us thumbs up. Please hit the like button, give us thumbs up, and of course subscribe. And help us share to reach more people. We truly appreciate your support. Leave your comments. Let us hear from you. You've been watching Citizen AY, the platform where we speak truth to power. Also, we are on TikTok as well. Again, Citizen AY. Help us grow that platform, and we'll be doing broadcasts on there. Thank you for watching. We hope you find this beneficial. I'm leaving you with the face of Macron, showing his embarrassment and the kind of he knows that he's been found out. There's nowhere to hide, and that symbolizes what the whole of Europe is facing right now. They got nowhere to hide because now we and Africans now know that they are for ensuring that Africa remains colonized, and we must free ourselves. Nobody else can do it for ourselves. We must free ourselves. So thank you for watching. You've been watching Citizen AY, the platform where we speak truth to power. I'll be back later on. Please share this broadcast, subscribe, and hit the notification button. I'll be back later on. Before I go, let me just make sure we will give you further updates on that. But thank you for watching. Please subscribe to Citizen AY, hit the notification button, and of course give us a thumbs up, and let us hear your comments as well. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.